Emily tightened her grip on the steering wheel as she navigated the winding road leading into the small town of Eldridge. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the landscape. She had always dreamed of escaping the chaos of city life, and this quaint, isolated town seemed like the perfect refuge. But as she crossed the town's welcome sign, a sense of unease settled in her stomach. The streets were eerily quiet, lined with old Victorian houses that appeared to be frozen in time. Paint peeled from their weathered facades, and overgrown gardens hinted at neglect. Emily felt as if she had stepped into a forgotten world, one that held its breath, waiting for something to happen. As she drove further, she noticed the townspeople watching her with curious, wary eyes. Their expressions were a mix of suspicion and intrigue, as if they were assessing whether she was a threat or a welcome change. She forced a smile, but their stares made her feel like an outsider, a stranger in a place that had its own unspoken rules. After settling into her new home, a modest, two-bedroom cottage on the edge of town, Emily decided to explore her surroundings. The sun was beginning to set, casting an orange glow over the horizon. She wandered down the main street, her footsteps echoing against the cobblestones. The few shops that remained open were quaint, filled with handmade crafts and local produce, but there was an underlying tension in the air that she couldn't shake. As she turned a corner, she stumbled upon the old, abandoned house that had caught her eye during her drive. It stood at the end of a narrow lane, shrouded in shadows and mystery. The windows were boarded up, and the front yard was overrun with weeds. A rusted gate creaked ominously as she pushed it open, the sound echoing in the stillness. Emily felt an inexplicable pull toward the house, as if it were calling to her. She stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. The air grew colder, and a shiver ran down her spine. Just then, an elderly man appeared from the shadows, his face lined with age and worry. "Best stay away from there, miss," he warned, his voice gravelly and low. "That house has a dark history. People have gone missing, and the spirits of the past still linger." Emily's curiosity piqued, but she forced a polite smile. "I appreciate the warning, but I'm just exploring." The man shook his head, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and sadness. "You don't understand. It's not just a house. It's a tomb, the family that lived there. They vanished without a trace. No one knows what happened, but the town has never been the same since." With that, he turned and shuffled away, leaving Emily standing in front of the house, her mind racing with questions. What had happened to the family? Why did the townspeople seem so afraid? As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, Emily felt a chill creep into her bones. She glanced back at the house, its dark silhouette looming against the night sky. The whispers of the forgotten echoed in her mind, and she knew that her journey had only just begun. The following day, Emily decided to explore the town further, hoping to learn more about its history and the peculiarities that surrounded her new home. She wandered into a small cafe, the only one bustling with life, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of baked goods. As she settled into a corner booth, she overheard snippets of conversation from the locals. "Did you hear about the new girl?" One woman whispered to her friend, glancing in Emily's direction. "She's been poking around that old house." "Best keep her away from there," the friend replied, her voice low. "It's cursed, you know. The family that lived there, they just vanished." Intrigued, Emily leaned in closer, trying to catch every word. The women continued to share hushed tales of the house, recounting the legend of the Hawthorne family, a family that had lived in the house for generations before mysteriously disappearing one stormy night. "They say the parents were found, but the children, they were never seen again," the first woman said, her eyes wide with fear. "Some believe they were taken by the spirits that haunt the place." Emily's heart raced as she listened. The stories painted a vivid picture of a family torn apart by tragedy, and she felt an inexplicable connection to their plight. She wanted to know more, to understand what had happened. After finishing her coffee, She approached the counter to pay. The barista, a young man with tousled hair and a friendly smile, noticed her curiosity. "You're interested in the Hawthornes, aren't you?" he asked, leaning closer. "Most folks around here avoid talking about them. Why is that?" Emily inquired, her curiosity piqued. He hesitated, glancing around as if ensuring no one was listening. "It's just ... People are afraid. They say the house is cursed, and anyone who goes near it invites trouble. You should really stay away." Just then, the door swung open, and in walked Mr. Thompson, the elderly man who had warned her the day before. His eyes narrowed as he spotted Emily. "I told you to stay away from that house," he barked, his voice filled with urgency. "You don't know what you're getting into." Emily felt a mix of frustration and intrigue. "I want to know what happened to the family. Why did they disappear?" Mr. Thompson's expression softened slightly, but the fear remained. "It's not just about the family. The town has its secrets, and some things are better left buried. You're a newcomer, and you don't understand the danger." Despite his warnings, Emily's curiosity only deepened. She felt a strange pull toward the house, as if it were beckoning her to uncover its mysteries. As Mr. Thompson turned to leave, she called after him, "What if I want to help them? What if they need someone to listen?" He paused, looking back at her with a mixture of pity and concern. "Sometimes it's better not to listen. The past has a way of haunting those who dare to disturb it." With that, he exited the cafe, leaving Emily alone with her thoughts. The stories of the Hawthorne family echoed in her mind, intertwining with her own sense of isolation in this strange town. She knew she had to learn more, to dig deeper into the legend that surrounded the house. As she left the cafe, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward her. The whispers of the forgotten grew louder, and Emily felt an undeniable urge to confront the darkness that lay within the old house. As night fell over Eldridge, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping the town in an eerie silence. Emily sat in her living room, the flickering light of a single lamp casting long shadows on the walls. The stories of the Hawthorne family haunted her thoughts, and the pull to explore the abandoned house grew stronger with each passing moment. She glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. With a deep breath, she grabbed her flashlight and slipped on her jacket. The chill in the air sent a shiver down her spine, but her curiosity outweighed her fear. She stepped outside, the cool night air wrapping around her like a shroud. The moon hung high in the sky, illuminating the path ahead as she made her way toward the old house. The closer she got, the more the atmosphere shifted. The wind whispered through the trees, and the branches creaked ominously. Emily hesitated at the gate, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the weight of the house's history pressing down on her, but she pushed through the fear and stepped inside the overgrown yard. The house loomed before her, its dark silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. She approached the front door, which hung slightly ajar, as if inviting her in. With a deep breath, she pushed it open, the door creaking loudly in protest. The air inside was stale, filled with the scent of damp wood and decay. Emily switched on her flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. Dust motes danced in the light as she stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. The interior was a time capsule, frozen in a moment long forgotten. Old furniture lay covered in sheets, and family portraits hung crookedly on the walls, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. As she explored the ground floor, strange noises began to fill the air, soft whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Emily paused, her heart racing. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling. The only response was the sound of her own breath and the creaking of the house settling around her. Determined to press on, she climbed the staircase, each step groaning under her weight. The second floor was darker, the flashlight beam barely illuminating the hallway. She felt an unsettling presence, as if she were being watched. A chill ran down her spine, but she steeled herself, reminding herself of the stories she had heard. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house, causing Emily to jump. The sound came from one of the rooms at the end of the hall. Heart pounding, she approached the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the knob. Just as she was about to turn it, a gust of wind swept through the hallway, slamming the door shut with a deafening thud. Emily gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. Panic surged through her as she realized she was trapped inside. The door wouldn't budge, no matter how hard she pushed against it. She turned back to the hallway, her flashlight flickering ominously. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a tempest. "Let me out," she shouted, her voice echoing in the darkness. But the house remained silent, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. In that moment, Emily felt a cold breeze brush past her, and she shivered. The air grew thick with tension, and she could sense the presence of something otherworldly. She was not alone. The spirits of the Hawthorne family were near, and they were trying to communicate. With renewed determination, Emily focused on the door, willing it to open. She could feel the weight of the house pressing down on her, but she refused to succumb to fear. She had come to uncover the truth, and she would not leave until she did. The air in the house was thick with tension, and Emily's heart raced as she stood in the dimly lit hallway. The door that had trapped her moments before now creaked open, as if the house itself had decided to release her. She stepped out, her flashlight beam trembling as she scanned the dark corners of the room. Suddenly, a soft whisper floated through the air, barely audible yet unmistakable. "Help us." The voice was faint, filled with sorrow and desperation. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She turned toward the sound, her heart pounding in her chest. As she moved deeper into the house, the whispers grew louder, guiding her toward a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and she pushed it open, revealing a small bedroom. Dust motes danced in the beam of her flashlight, and the air felt charged with an otherworldly energy. In the center of the room stood a figure, a woman in a long flowing dress, her face pale and gaunt. Emily's heart raced as she realized it was the spirit of Margaret Hawthorne, the mother of the family. The apparition looked at her with hollow eyes, filled with a mixture of sadness and longing. "Please," the spirit whispered, her voice echoing in the stillness. "You must help us." Emily felt a chill run down her spine, but she stepped closer, drawn to the spirit's plea. "What happened to you? Why are you here?" she asked, her voice trembling. Margaret's form flickered, and the room around Emily began to shift. The walls faded away, replaced by a vibrant scene of the past. Emily found herself standing in the same room, but it was filled with life. Laughter echoed as children played, and the smell of freshly baked bread wafted through the air. She watched as the Hawthorne family went about their daily lives, unaware of the darkness that loomed over them. The children, Lily and Thomas, played with a wooden toy, their faces lit with joy. Margaret moved about the kitchen, her smile warm and inviting. But as Emily observed, she noticed a shadow lurking in the corner, a dark figure that seemed to watch the family with malevolent intent. Suddenly, the scene shifted again, and Emily found herself in a nightmarish vision. The house was engulfed in chaos. The children screamed, and Margaret's face twisted in terror as the dark figure lunged at them. Emily felt a wave of despair wash over her as she witnessed the family's tragic fate unfold before her eyes. "Help us." Margaret's voice echoed again, pulling Emily back to the present. The spirit reached out, her translucent hand trembling. "We were taken, trapped by the darkness. You must find the truth." Emily's heart ached for the family, and she felt a surge of determination. "I will help you," she promised, her voice steady. "I'll uncover what happened." As the vision faded, Emily found herself back in the bedroom, the spirit of Margaret now hovering before her, a look of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, before slowly dissipating into the air, leaving behind a lingering sense of sorrow. The room fell silent, and Emily stood alone, her mind racing with the revelations she had just witnessed. The whispers of the family echoed in her ears, urging her to dig deeper into the town's dark history. She knew she had to uncover the truth behind the Hawthorne family's disappearance and the malevolent force that had taken them. With renewed resolve, Emily stepped out of the room, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The haunting had only just begun, and she was determined to bring the truth to light. The following day, Emily awoke with a sense of urgency. The visions of the Hawthorne family haunted her dreams, and their pleas for help echoed in her mind. She knew she had to uncover the truth about their tragic fate, and the first step was to dig deeper into the town's history. After a quick breakfast, she set out to the local library, a small, dusty building that seemed to hold the weight of countless stories within its walls. As she entered, the musty smell of old books enveloped her, and she felt a sense of comfort mixed with apprehension. The librarian, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a knowing smile, greeted her. "Looking for something specific?" the librarian asked, her tone both curious and cautious. "I'm interested in the Hawthorne family," Emily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I want to know what happened to them." The librarian's expression shifted, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "Ah, the Hawthornes. A tragic story indeed. You might find some information in the local history section. Just be careful, some things are better left undisturbed." Emily nodded, feeling a chill run down her spine. She made her way to the back of the library, where shelves lined with dusty tomes awaited her. She spent hours poring over old newspapers, town records, and history books, piecing together the fragments of the Hawthorne family's life. As she read, a dark picture began to emerge. The family had been well respected in the community, known for their kindness and generosity. But as the years passed, whispers of strange occurrences began to surface. Neighbors reported seeing shadows moving in the windows at night and hearing eerie sounds emanating from the house. Then, one fateful night, the family vanished without a trace, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a lingering sense of dread. Emily's heart raced as she stumbled upon a newspaper article detailing the search for the missing family. The townspeople had scoured the area, but no evidence was found. The article hinted at a growing fear among the residents, suggesting that something sinister lurked in the shadows of Eldridge. Just as she was about to give up, Emily noticed a small, leather-bound diary tucked away on a shelf. Its cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. She carefully opened it, revealing the delicate handwriting of Lily Hawthorne, the youngest daughter. The entries were filled with the innocent musings of a child, but as Emily read further, the tone shifted. Lily wrote about strange happenings in the house, whispers in the night, shadows that danced just out of sight, and a growing sense of unease. The last entry sent chills down Emily's spine. Asterisk, "I can feel them watching us. Mama says it's just my imagination. But I know it's real. I'm scared. I don't want to disappear like the others." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she closed the diary, the weight of Lily's words heavy on her heart. The family had been aware of the darkness surrounding them, and their fear had been palpable. Determined to learn more, Emily decided to confront Mr. Thompson. She needed answers, and he was the only one who seemed to know the town's secrets. Emily approached Mr. Thompson's house with a mix of determination and trepidation. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the town, but the shadows seemed to stretch longer than usual, as if the darkness itself was aware of her intentions. She knocked on the weathered door, her heart racing as she waited for a response. After a moment, the door creaked open, revealing Mr. Thompson's weary face. His eyes narrowed as he took in Emily's determined expression. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice gruff. "I need to talk to you about the Hawthorne family," Emily replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. "I found their diary, and I need to know what really happened to them." Mr. Thompson hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to overhear. "Come in," he finally said, stepping aside to let her enter. The interior of his home was dimly lit, filled with the scent of old wood and something else, something unsettling. As they settled into the small living room, Emily wasted no time. "I've heard the stories, but I need to know the truth. What happened to the Hawthornes? Why did they disappear?" Mr. Thompson sighed, his expression heavy with the weight of memories. "The Hawthornes were good people, but they got caught up in something dark. The townspeople. They were involved in a ritual, a desperate attempt to maintain their power and control over the land." Emily's heart raced. "A ritual? What kind of ritual?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It was said to involve sacrifices offering something precious to the darkness in exchange for protection and prosperity. The Hawthornes were chosen, but they resisted. They didn't want to be part of it, and that's why they vanished." "Chosen?" Emily echoed, her mind racing. "What do you mean?" "The townspeople believed that the Hawthornes had a special connection to the land, a power that could be harnessed. When they refused to participate, the darkness took them. It was a warning to anyone who dared to defy the town's traditions." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. But why didn't anyone try to save them? Why didn't anyone speak out? Mr. Thompson's eyes darkened. "Fear. The townspeople were afraid of the darkness, afraid of what would happen if they defied it. They turned a blind eye, convincing themselves that it was for the greater good. But the truth is, they were complicit in the evil that took the Hawthornes." The weight of his words settled heavily in the room. Emily's mind raced with the implications. The townspeople had sacrificed the Hawthorne family to protect themselves, and now that darkness was still lurking, waiting for its next victim. "I have to stop this," Emily declared, her voice firm. "I can't let the same thing happen to anyone else." Mr. Thompson shook his head, a look of concern etched on his face. "You don't understand the danger you're putting yourself in. The darkness is powerful, and it won't hesitate to claim you as well." "I can't just walk away," Emily insisted, her resolve hardening. "I owe it to the Hawthornes to uncover the truth and put an end to this." As she spoke, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and the lights flickered ominously. Emily felt a chill creep into the room, and she knew that the darkness was aware of her intentions. "Be careful, Emily," Mr. Thompson warned, his voice grave. "The town has its eyes on you. If they find out what you're planning, you may not be able to escape." With that, Emily left his house, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The shadows seemed to close in around her as she walked back to her cottage, but she refused to let them deter her. She had uncovered a dark secret, and now she had to confront the evil that had taken the Hawthorne family. As she reached her front door, she felt a pull toward the abandoned house once more. The spirits of the Hawthorne family were calling to her, urging her to return. She knew that the answers she sought lay within those walls, and she was ready to face whatever darkness awaited her. The days that followed Emily's confrontation with Mr. Thompson were a blur of confusion and dread. The weight of the town's dark history pressed heavily on her shoulders, and she felt the shadows closing in around her. Strange occurrences began to escalate, and she found herself questioning her own sanity. At night, the whispers grew louder, echoing through her dreams and waking her in a cold sweat. She would sit up in bed, heart racing, convinced she could hear the faint cries of the Hawthorne children calling for help. Each time she closed her eyes, she was pulled deeper into a world of darkness, where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. During the day, Emily tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but the townspeople's wary glances and hushed conversations only heightened her anxiety. She felt like a pariah, an outsider who had dared to disturb the fragile peace of Eldridge. The more she learned, the more isolated she became, as if the very act of seeking the truth had marked her as a target. One evening, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, Emily decided to return to the abandoned house. The pull was irresistible, a magnetic force drawing her toward the very heart of the darkness. As she approached, the air grew colder and the wind howled through the trees as if warning her to turn back. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The flashlight beam flickered as she moved through the familiar rooms, but this time, the house felt different, alive with a malevolent energy. Shadows danced along the walls, and the whispers intensified, swirling around her like a tempest. "Help us." The voices were clearer now, filled with urgency and despair. Emily felt a chill run down her spine, but she pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. As she entered the living room, she was met with a sight that made her blood run cold. The apparitions of the Hawthorne family stood before her, their faces twisted in anguish. Margaret, Lily, and Thomas looked at her with pleading eyes, their forms flickering like candle flames. "Why are you here?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The spirits reached out, their hands stretching toward her, but the darkness in the room surged, pushing them back. Emily felt a wave of panic wash over her as the shadows coalesced into a dark figure, a manifestation of the very evil that had claimed the Hawthorne family. "Leave this place," the figure growled, its voice a low rumble that reverberated through the walls. "You do not belong here." Emily's heart raced as she backed away, but the spirits of the Hawthorne family surged forward, their voices rising in a chorus of desperation. "Help us! Break the cycle!" The dark figure lunged at her, and Emily stumbled, falling to the ground. The room spun around her, and she felt the weight of the darkness pressing down, threatening to consume her. In that moment, she realized that the spirits were not just trapped. They were fighting against the very evil that had taken them. With a surge of determination, Emily stood her ground. "I won't let you take me," she shouted, her voice echoing in the darkness. "I will help you." As she spoke, the shadows recoiled, and the spirits of the Hawthorne family began to glow with a faint light. Emily felt a warmth envelop her, a connection to the family that had suffered so much. She could sense their pain, their longing for freedom, and it fueled her resolve. "Tell me what I need to do," she cried, her heart racing. "I will not let your story end in darkness." The spirits nodded, their expressions shifting from despair to hope. "Find the truth," they whispered, their voices intertwining. "The ritual must be stopped. You are our only chance." With that, the dark figure let out a furious roar, and the room erupted in chaos. Emily felt the pull of the house intensifying, but she stood firm, determined to confront the evil that had haunted the Hawthorne family for so long. As the shadows swirled around her, Emily knew that she was on the brink of a revelation. The descent into darkness had begun, but she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The truth awaited her, and she would stop at nothing to uncover it. The weight of the revelations pressed heavily on Emily as she left the abandoned house. The spirits of the Hawthorne family had entrusted her with their truth, and she felt a sense of urgency to act. The dark figure that had confronted her was a reminder of the evil that lurked in the shadows, and she knew she had to uncover the details of the ritual that had led to their demise. Determined, Emily returned to the library, her mind racing with questions. She needed to find more information about the ritual and the townspeople's involvement. As she entered the familiar space, the librarian looked up from her desk, a knowing expression crossing her face. "Back again, I see," she said, her tone cautious. "What are you looking for this time?" "I need to know about the ritual that the townspeople performed," Emily replied, her voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. "I think it's connected to the Hawthorne family." The librarian's expression shifted, a flicker of concern crossing her features. "That's a dangerous path to tread, dear. The townspeople don't take kindly to those who dig into their past." "I understand, but I have to know," Emily insisted. "People's lives are at stake." With a reluctant sigh, the librarian led Emily to a section of the library that was rarely visited. Dust covered the shelves, and the air felt thick with secrets. "You might find something here," she said, gesturing to a collection of old town records and journals. Emily began to sift through the materials, her heart racing as she uncovered accounts of the town's history. She found references to a dark ritual that had been performed every generation, a desperate attempt to appease the forces that lurked in the shadows. The townspeople believed that by offering sacrifices, they could maintain their prosperity and protect themselves from the darkness. As she read, a sense of dread washed over her. The ritual involved selecting a family deemed special by the town's elders, and the Hawthornes had been chosen. The records detailed how the family had resisted, leading to their tragic fate. The townspeople had turned against them, convinced that their refusal had angered the darkness. Emily's hands trembled as she pieced together the horrifying truth. The townspeople were planning to repeat the ritual soon, and she realized that the next family could be anyone, perhaps even her own. The urgency of her mission intensified, and she knew she had to confront the evil before it was too late. With the information she had gathered, Emily left the library, her mind racing with thoughts of how to stop the ritual. She needed to warn the townspeople, but she also knew that they might not believe her. The fear that had gripped Eldridge for generations was deeply ingrained, and she could sense the danger that lay ahead. As she walked through the town, the shadows seemed to stretch and twist, whispering warnings in her ears. The townspeople moved about their business, but their eyes held a flicker of fear, as if they sensed the darkness that loomed just beyond their understanding. Emily felt a pull toward the abandoned house once more, the place where the truth had been revealed to her. She knew that she had to return, to confront the spirits and gather the strength she needed to face the townspeople. The ritual was imminent, and she had to act quickly. As she approached the house, the wind howled around her, and the air crackled with energy. The spirits of the Hawthorne family awaited her, their presence a reminder of the stakes at hand. Emily steeled herself, ready to confront the darkness that had haunted Eldridge for far too long. Inside the house, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The spirits appeared before her, their faces a mix of hope and fear. "You must stop them," they urged, their voices intertwining. "You are our only chance." With a deep breath, Emily nodded, determination flooding her veins. She would not let the cycle of horror continue. The time had come to confront the evil that had taken so much from the town, and she was ready to fight for the truth. The night was thick with tension as Emily stood before the abandoned house, the air crackling with energy. She could feel the spirits of the Hawthorne family surrounding her, their presence a mix of hope and urgency. The time had come for her to confront the darkness that had plagued Eldridge for far too long. With a deep breath, she pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The familiar scent of decay filled her nostrils, but this time it was accompanied by a sense of purpose. She had gathered the knowledge she needed, and she was ready to face the townspeople who had perpetuated the cycle of horror. As she moved through the house, the shadows seemed to shift and swirl around her, whispering warnings and urging her to turn back. But Emily pressed on, determined to confront the evil that had taken so much from the town. She could feel the spirits guiding her, their energy bolstering her resolve. In the center of the living room, she found a makeshift altar, remnants of the dark ritual that had claimed the Hawthorne family. Candles flickered in the dim light, and the air was thick with the scent of burnt offerings. Emily's heart raced as she realized that the townspeople were planning to repeat the ritual tonight. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a group of townspeople entered, led by Mr. Thompson. Their faces were grim, and Emily could see the fear in their eyes. "You shouldn't be here, Emily," Mr. Thompson shouted, his voice filled with urgency. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand more than you think," Emily replied, her voice steady. "I know what happened to the Hawthornes, and I won't let you sacrifice anyone else." The townspeople exchanged nervous glances, and Emily could sense their hesitation. "You don't know the consequences of defying the darkness," one of them warned. "It will consume us all." "I'd rather face the darkness than let it continue to control us," Emily declared, her voice rising with conviction. "The Hawthornes deserve justice, and I will not let their story end in tragedy." As she spoke, the spirits of the Hawthorne family began to materialize around her, their forms glowing with ethereal light. "We are here," they whispered, their voices intertwining with Emily's. "We will not be forgotten." The townspeople recoiled, fear etched on their faces as they witnessed the apparitions. "No, this can't be happening," Mr. Thompson shouted, his voice trembling. With a surge of energy, Emily stepped forward, channeling the strength of the spirits. "You have to stop this. The ritual must end now," she cried, raising her hands as the light from the spirits intensified. The dark figure that had haunted her before emerged from the shadows, its form twisting and writhing. "You think you can stop me?" it growled, its voice a low rumble that reverberated through the room. "You are nothing." But Emily stood her ground, fueled by the determination of the Hawthorne family. "I am not nothing. I am their voice, and I will break this cycle of horror." As the dark figure lunged at her, the spirits surged forward, their light clashing with the darkness. A battle ensued, the room filled with a cacophony of sound as light and shadow collided. Emily felt the energy of the spirits coursing through her, empowering her to confront the evil that had taken so much. With a final surge of strength, Emily focused all her energy on the dark figure. "You will not take anyone else," she shouted, her voice echoing with the power of the spirits. The light enveloped her, and she felt a connection to the Hawthorne family, their pain and suffering fueling her resolve. The dark figure let out a deafening roar as the light consumed it, and with a final flash, it dissipated into nothingness. The room fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the spirits of the Hawthorne family surrounded Emily, their faces filled with gratitude. "You have freed us," they whispered, their voices a gentle breeze. "Thank you." As the spirits faded into the light, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her. The townspeople stood in stunned silence, the weight of their actions heavy in the air. They had witnessed the power of the truth, and Emily knew that the cycle of horror had finally been broken. But as she looked around, she realized that the battle was not over. The town had been changed forever, and the remnants of the darkness still lingered. Emily knew that her journey was far from complete, but for now, she had given the Hawthorne family the justice they deserved. The dawn broke over Eldridge, casting a soft light that illuminated the remnants of the night's chaos. Emily stood outside the abandoned house, her heart still racing from the confrontation. The air felt different now, lighter somehow, as if the weight of the darkness had finally lifted. Yet she knew that the scars of the past would linger. As she looked around, she noticed the townspeople emerging from their homes, their expressions a mix of confusion and relief. They had witnessed the battle, the clash of light and shadow, and the truth that had been hidden for so long. Some approached her cautiously, their eyes filled with a newfound respect, while others hung back, still grappling with the fear that had gripped them for generations. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his face lined with regret. "I didn't believe you could do it," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. "I thought the darkness was too strong, that it would consume us all." Emily met his gaze, her heart softening. It was never too late to confront it. We just needed to face the truth together. As the townspeople gathered, Emily felt a sense of purpose wash over her. She began to speak, sharing the story of the Hawthorne family and the sacrifices they had made. She urged the townspeople to remember the lessons learned from the past, to honor the spirits that had fought for their freedom. Some residents wept, mourning the loss of the Hawthornes and the pain they had endured. Others expressed their gratitude to Emily for her bravery, for shining a light on the darkness that had haunted them for so long. But not everyone was ready to accept the truth. A few remained skeptical, their fears still palpable, unwilling to let go of the traditions that had bound them. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Emily felt a sense of closure. The town was forever changed. Some residents were freed from the curse of ignorance, while others remained trapped in their fear. She knew that healing would take time, but the first step had been taken. In the days that followed, Emily worked to help the town rebuild. She organized community meetings, encouraging open discussions about the past and the importance of facing their fears. Slowly, the townspeople began to come together, united by a shared desire to break free from the cycle of horror that had plagued them for generations. But as Emily settled into her new life, she couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was not entirely vanquished. Late at night, she would hear whispers in the wind, echoes of the past that reminded her of the evil that had once taken hold. The spirits of the Hawthorne family lingered in her thoughts, their presence a constant reminder of the cost of uncovering the truth. One evening, as she stood on the porch of her cottage, she gazed at the abandoned house, now a symbol of both tragedy and hope. The memories of the battle still fresh in her mind, she felt a pull toward the house once more. It was as if the spirits were calling to her, urging her to continue the fight against the darkness that still lurked in the shadows. With a deep breath, Emily made a decision. She would not let the story end here. She would delve deeper into the town's history, uncovering more secrets and ensuring that the past would never be forgotten. The evil may not have been entirely vanquished, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As she turned to enter her home, a gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it a whisper of hope. Emily smiled, knowing that she was not alone in this journey. The spirits of the Hawthorne family would always be with her, guiding her as she continued to fight for the truth and protect the town she had come to love. The story was far from over, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Months passed since the confrontation that had changed Eldridge forever. The town was slowly healing, its residents learning to embrace the truth of their past rather than hide from it. Emily had become a beacon of hope, leading community efforts to honor the memory of the Hawthorne family and educate others about the dangers of ignorance and fear. The abandoned house, once a symbol of darkness, was transformed into a memorial for the Hawthornes. The townspeople gathered to share stories, lighting candles in remembrance of the family that had suffered so much. Emily often stood among them, feeling the warmth of their unity and the strength of their resolve. But even as the town began to thrive, Emily remained vigilant. The whispers of the past still echoed in her mind, and she knew that the darkness could return if they were not careful. She dedicated herself to researching the town's history, uncovering more about the rituals and the forces that had once threatened their lives. One evening, as she sat in her cozy living room, poring over old records, a sudden chill swept through the air. The lights flickered, and she felt a familiar presence. The spirits of the Hawthorne family appeared before her, their forms glowing softly in the dim light. "Thank you," Margaret whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "You have given us peace." Emily's heart swelled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your strength guided me." The spirits smiled, their faces serene. "But our work is not done. There are still shadows in the world, and you must remain vigilant." Emily nodded, understanding the weight of their words. "I will. I promise to protect this town and honor your memory." As the spirits began to fade, Emily felt a sense of purpose wash over her. She knew that her journey was far from over. The darkness might still linger, but she was ready to face it head-on. With the support of the townspeople and the guidance of the Hawthorne family, she would continue to fight for the truth. As the last remnants of the spirits disappeared, Emily looked out the window at the stars twinkling in the night sky. She felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The past had shaped her, but it would not define her future. Eldridge was her home now, and she would do everything in her power to ensure that it remained a place of light and love. With a deep breath, she closed the records and stood up, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. The story of Eldridge was still being written, and Emily was determined to be its author, guiding the town toward a brighter tomorrow. The echoes of the past would always be a part of her, but she would ensure that they served as a reminder of the strength found in unity and the power of truth. And so, with the dawn of a new day on the horizon, Emily stepped forward into the light, ready to face the future with courage and hope.